Okay, welcome back. We have a story today that was emailed in from a guy that went to Pattaya. He fell in love on the first day. He ended up getting married to this girl, and yeah, let's jump into it and see where it leads. After listening to a lot of the stories on your channel and other channels about Thai bar girls, I hear the same things over and over again. They are manipulative, only out for money, will financially drain you, blah blah blah. This is obviously true with a lot of the girls involved in the nightlife of Thailand, but people should not tar every girl with the same brush. That is why I would like to share my story of how I married a bar girl from Thailand and how my life has changed for the better since I met my beautiful wife. Hopefully, giving your listeners a bit of advice along the way and to take the chance if you feel it may work. My story starts way back in 1998 when I met and married a 20-year-old bar girl named Nani. I was currently on the rebound from a messy divorce from my ex-wife of 7 years. We got married at a pretty young age of 23, and I just turned 30 years old when the divorce was finalised. To cut a long story short about the time after the divorce, I was pretty messed up, and a friend of mine that had been to Thailand several times suggested that I visit Pattaya. So that's what I did. There was not a lot of ways back then that you could research a place. All I knew about Pattaya was what people who had been there already told me. As I said, I was only 30 years old, so still fairly young compared to most of the men that go there to fix their shattered ego. My plan was to go there, forget about my problems for a couple of weeks, have fun, and then return to fix my life. I had no plans on falling in love, starting a relationship, or even becoming more than a customer with any of these girls. It was during winter time in my country, so once I landed in Thailand and made my way to Pattaya, I went down to the beach to get the winter cold out of my lungs and get a tan. It was pretty crazy that the day before I was wearing a jacket and a hat. Now I'm wearing just shorts and sandals. I wasn't used to this type of heat or seeing beautiful girls everywhere I looked, smiling and waving at me. My ego was already starting to feel slightly on the mend. So I'm laying there on the beach, and I was in the process of putting sun cream on as my pale skin would fry, when a beautiful young girl came and sat next to me, asking me in cute English if I would like her to put the cream on my back. This was crazy for me. No way in my country would a random young girl ever say that to a guy on the beach. She must have spotted me alone and somewhat struggling to apply the cream everywhere. After she asked, the only answer I could reply was a big fat yes. I wouldn't dare turn down that request from this beauty. It's hard to describe this girl. We all have the ultimate fantasy girl that we would like to be with, and I think she was that for me, maybe even better than my fantasy girl. She introduced herself to me as Nani, and also asked me to rub sun cream on her body. She has such a perfect body, not too skinny but not too fat either, perfect chest and long jet black hair. Don't get me wrong, I had heard about the games here, and I knew this wasn't a random girl coming over to me because she was attracted to me. I knew at some point there would be a money transaction, but I still went with the flow as I was enjoying my time with her. She actually stayed with me for a few hours. We chatted and had a couple of coconut drinks. It was a great start to my holiday. However, jet lag had kicked in and I really needed to go back to my hotel and get some sleep, or I wasn't going to make it off the beach, and I would have hated to have fallen asleep while talking to this beauty. I told her that, and she asked if I wanted her to come to my room, and I replied with a "Sure, come up with me if you like," though I don't have much energy. I said that because I did not want her to think we could go back to the room and I'd have the ability to perform. But she still agreed to come back. We packed up all of our stuff and started making our way back to the hotel. At this point, I was a little bit anxious as it was my first time and she randomly appeared from nowhere. I had just met this perfect looking girl and now she was making her way back to my hotel. What was her intentions? We got in my room and showered. I was super jet lagged, but I had an hour's worth of bedroom fun left in me. So we did that until I finally passed out from the tiredness. When I finally woke up, it was around 9 to 10 p.m. I turned and saw that she wasn't lying in bed. I had a short panic attack until I saw her sitting there in her birthday suit on the sofa watching some Thai programs. My God, she looked beautiful sat there, smiling at the show she was watching. I knew at that point I might be in trouble. Fancy coming to Pattaya and falling for a girl the first day you get there. Of course, I was not in love with the girl I had just met, but I was very smitten by her and I knew I would have a hard time letting her go. I finally got out of bed after staring at her beauty for a few moments, took a shower to refresh, and once I came out, she pushed me onto the bed and we had fun again. I could already tell that this girl was pretty wild, but I was loving every minute of it. After that, we laid in each other's arms for a bit, with her head rested on my stomach. It was rumbling so hard because I hadn't eaten in a while. She laughed and said, "We eat now, you hungry belly?" She suggested that as I am new here, I should try some of the local spicy Thai dishes. So we got sorted and headed out in the super hot and sticky weather that I clearly wasn't used to. Nanny took me to a small restaurant not too far from the beach. Nothing fancy, but it had a lot of customers both inside and outside. This was my first experience with real Thai food, and it was such a change from the crap I would be eating at home. She ordered lots of different dishes for me to try, and with how hungry I was, it went down a treat, although some of it was very spicy. Nanny was also not a typical female when it came to eating food. She was like me, scoffing it down. Not sure why I liked that, but I did. So I was on the soft drinks, as was she. It was a great night. We talked and picked at the food on the table until around 1:30, 2 a.m. Her English was pretty decent considering she was Thai. I'd say it was even better than the people at my hotel's front desk. After we finished our food, she once again asked me if I would like her to come to my room, to which again I said yes without a second thought. We got back to my hotel room and the bedroom fun started all over again until we both finally fell asleep. What a great first night in the land of smiles for me. When I woke, I noticed Nanny was not in bed or on the sofa, so I started to panic. Am I not meant to pay to have female company, or was I just robbed? I quickly jumped out of bed and checked all my belongings, and then onto my wallet. Everything was still there, nothing missing. I was lucky. This could have been a lot worse. If Nanny was a bad apple, she could have easily stole everything in my room and left me out to dry. Once I calmed down and gathered my thoughts on my first one-night stand in Thailand and how it was actually such a good night, I jumped into the shower to get ready for the day. It wasn't until I was getting dressed that I noticed a note on the bedside table. It was from Nanny, asking me to meet her at her apartment at 8 p.m, followed by her address and phone number. I already realised that I had feelings for her after the first night, so I thought to myself that I do not want to get more involved with someone than I already have, so no, forget it. The start of the day was pretty chill really. Headed to the pool and had a Westerner breakfast that the hotel cooks. Nothing special, so I decided to stick to Thai food from then on. Afternoon approached and it was time for me to head out again, so I did some walking around and I found an open air beer bar. Perfect. When I got in the bar, I was surrounded by cute Thai girls. It was like heaven on earth. However, most of them already seemed drunk and loud. Maybe a big spender was in the bar earlier buying them drinks. I asked one of the more quiet, sober ones if she'd like to join me for a drink at the table. She agreed, and off we went. She was nowhere near as cute as Nanny, but she was still attractive and fun to spend time with. As I already said, I don't drink alcohol, so again, I was on the soft drinks, but I was buying lady drinks for this new girl that she was getting through rather fast. We played some of the board games that they have in the bar that customers play with the girls. Needless to say, I lost every game. After an hour or so playing these games and filling her up with lady drinks, I asked if she wanted to join me in my room. Before I could even finish my sentence, she knew what I was going to say. She stood up, grabbed my hand and said, "Let's go." I paid my tab, her fine, and off we went. As soon as we left the bar, she was very direct and said, "Short time, 500 baht." I think that's how much I paid anyway. It's a bit of a hazy memory, but remember, this was 1998. Things were much cheaper then, including the ladies. Anyway, we got back to the room, and unlike the first night, this was pretty much a disaster. She really was not experienced, active, or even seemed interested at all. It was very weird if I carried on, so we stopped after only about 15 minutes. She got up immediately, took a shower, and I gave her the money that we agreed on. She then asked me to come to the bar again at midnight so I can take her again, and that now she is going home to take care of her son for an hour. Yeah, sure you are. That just means you have another short time lined up. I agreed to come and get her at midnight, but I was just saying that. She wasn't worth the money or the time, so I forgot her. Afternoon drifted into the evening, and I did nothing apart from try get some colour on my pale skin by baking in the sun. Slowly but surely, I was getting a tan. In my head, I planned on taking a nap, then heading out for some nighttime fun. However, it was about 7 PM when I woke up from my nap. I took a shower and got ready. Then I noticed the note that Nanny had left me. My plans was now split in two. Do I go out and enjoy the nightlife fun, or shall I go see Nanny again? But what was I getting myself into? What did this chick really want? Although I liked her, was it really worth to go back for seconds? After a few minutes of thinking and weighing up my options, I decided, screw it. I enjoyed my time with Nanny, so I took the risk and decided to go to her place. I left the hotel, got a taxi, and shown the driver the note that Nanny had left me with her address on. He took me to this rundown kind of slum looking area where her apartment was. I was now thinking to myself, is this a setup? Am I about to get mugged? Against my better judgment, I walked up to the 3rd floor, knocked on the door, and there she was, as beautiful as ever. She immediately gave me a hug and a kiss once she opened the door. She told me she did not think I would show up because I never called her. She was even cooking dinner for us in case I did show up, which I found really sweet. Her apartment wasn't actually as bad as I thought when I walked in. It was pretty clean and nice. There was a young girl watching TV on the sofa that gave me a shy smile. Nanny said it was her roommate's daughter, even though I thought it was Nanny's daughter. She was about 6 or 7. I sat and watched some Thai kids shows with her while Nanny was preparing dinner. The little girl was fascinated with me, probably has never seen or spoke to a foreigner before, but her English and communication skills were the best I've seen, especially considering her age. She was able to ask me where I am from, to which I replied, Salt Lake City. She was repeating what I said until she finally nailed it, and then jumped up from the sofa and fetched a World Atlas book. No word of a lie, this little Thai girl scanned through the World Atlas and found where I'm from, with very little help from me. This girl was super clever. Dinner was absolutely delicious. Nanny was quite the cook. It was also fun as well, with all of us laughing and joking, and of course, me being immature with the young girl making her laugh while eating. Having a cooked dinner at a Thai girl's home in Pattaya is not something I had in mind for nightlife entertainment. I was thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? Why am I not in a bar buying lady drinks looking for a short-time girl? But I was having fun and glad I decided to come. After dinner ended, I was wondering what was going to happen next. This is a position I did not expect to find myself in Pattaya. About half an hour after we finished cleaning up dinner, Nanny's roommate came home. She was a pretty girl, but slightly chunky and did not look like she was a typical bar girl. Her English was pretty bad, so Nanny was translating for me. I asked her how come her daughter speaks great English and is clever for her age. It turns out that the little girl's father is a Dutchman that has paid for his daughter to go to a special international school, and that in a few months the girl and her mother was planning to relocate to Holland. Not long after meeting the roommate, me and Nanny headed down to the beach where we spent hours talking and laughing with each other. I was so smitten over this woman and I was catching feelings. Yes, it was early days, but she was so enchanting that I could not help myself, even though I did not want to get involved seriously with any woman. She quickly became the girl of my dreams, even though I knew the type of work she was doing. Having said that, up until now, she had not asked me for any money. While chatting on the beach, Nanny opened up a bit about her past and current life. She told me she started bar girl work when she was only 15 years old in Bangkok to support her family. This lasted 3 years until she then moved to Pattaya after an abusive customer in Bangkok tied her up and made a mess of her face. I was very happy that she felt comfortable opening up to me. She also told me straight that she would take the occasional customer here in Pattaya to help pay rent, and she had a part-time cleaning job at some offices. After the beach, we headed back to my hotel room for the rest of the night. She's shown her appreciation of the night in more ways than one. Learning more about Nanny, her sister, Molly, was also a bar girl in Bangkok, and her mother was pretty sick that also lived in Bangkok. Hearing all about Nanny's life, the smartest move for most guys would have been to get the hell out of that situation and not fall for someone like that. Me, on the other hand, ended up staying with Nanny for the whole month that I was there. Not sure why I was doing this. Bounced right out of a divorce and fell for a bar girl from Pattaya. This is how horror stories begin. At the end of the month, I gave Nanny the remaining money I had left, which was around 15,000 baht. That's not much money now, but back then it was worth a lot more. The night before leaving was pretty hard for both of us. She was in tears, and like a love-struck fool, so was I. I felt like love had found us and thought her feelings were genuine, but at the same time, I tried to convince myself that when I land back in my home country, I can just put this trip to the back of my mind. Nanny did not want to come to the airport as she said it would be too hard to watch me leave. She wrote down her information again and I took a chance and gave her my info as well. The flight back to my country was horrendous. I truly felt like trash. What have I done? Have I really fell for a working girl from Pattaya? Monday morning arrived and I find myself back grinding at work. The heavy traffic, the cold snowy weather and rude people. It was truly a nightmare being back home. However, on Wednesday I received an email from Nanny and I was so happy to see it pop up. It made me have a warm feeling inside and my heart was pounding. I opened the email and was smiling and laughing instantly. She was talking about the dinner we had and the jokes we was having with her roommate's daughter. It brought back really good memories. After the joking part of the email, the rest was like a love letter. She admitted that she was completely in love with me and feeling sad and down that I had to leave. It's strange, but I knew she was telling the truth about her feelings. I could just feel her emotions as I was reading it. It's hard to explain, but all the while reading it, the saying, "never trust a bar girl," was echoing through my mind. I decided to tell one of my friends about Nanny and my feelings towards her, how much I had felt for her. He thought I was completely insane to fall in love with a Thai bar girl, and rightly so. Stop thinking with your little head and start thinking with your big head was mentioned a few times during our conversations. Friday came around and I was so happy. My first week back at work really dragged and wasn't good at all. I decided to give Nanny a call at her apartment during the evening in Thailand. She was over the moon that I called. She was actually crying with happiness. We spoke for about 20 minutes and Apple, the roommate's daughter, wanted to talk to me also. Apple asked when I was coming back because Nanny was sad and crying all the time. Now I was starting to feel actually guilty for leaving, even though I had no choice. It wasn't a nice feeling that I had made her sad and cry. I told Nanny that I would need to end the call because it was going to cost me a fortune in long distance charges. Remember, this was way before video calling and all the tech people use now. She then asked me when I was coming back to her, to which I replied, in a couple of months, as soon as I can. She said she would only do her office cleaning job and not meet any customers because she loved me, wanted to date me, and wanted us to be together in the future. Then I made what I thought at the time was a stupid mistake. I told her that I wanted a future with her and that I loved her, and then hung up the phone and began beating myself up over what I had just said. What am I doing? Am I not thinking straight, saying the big L word to a Pattaya girl? From that day on, we would email as much as possible, but could only really afford to call each other 2 or 3 times a week, and only for a short time because of long distance charges. 2 months rolled by, and as fate or luck would have it, the company I worked for went pear-shaped and had to close. All the employees got a severance package. Mine was a lot better because I had spent my whole career at this company. I got a year's pay with some additional benefits. The very same night that we all got laid off, I booked a flight to Thailand the next day, kept it a secret from Nanny. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have kept it a secret. Imagine turning up and she's with another customer. Luckily, that did not happen. I arrived in Thailand the next day, went straight to Pattaya and headed to Nanny's apartment. Her roommate answered the door. She was shocked and amazed that I was actually being truthful about my feelings towards Nanny. She pulled me inside and gave me a big hug and said some words in Thai that I didn't really understand. Apple came out her bedroom, let off a huge smile and came charging towards me, jumping into my arms and giving me the sweetest hug. It felt like I was truly home. Apple told me that Nanny was still at work and would not return until midnight from her cleaning job. She told me to wait at the apartment for Nanny and led me to the sofa. She was such a little chatterbox and loved showing off her English skills. She talked that much, she actually fell asleep on the sofa while talking to me. I then put her to bed with her mother's permission. Around 12:30 a.m, I heard Nanny walk through the door. This is it. Did I make the best decision of my life by returning, or a decision I will live to regret? She walked around the corner and saw me. Her expression is something I will always remember and treasure to this day. She stood there with a shocked look on her face, eyes filling up with tears, yet totally silent and trembling. I went over and hugged her and said, "I told you I wanted a future with you." It's like she forgot how to breathe. She let out a huge sigh and the waterworks went off, both of us. Even Apple's mum was stood there crying while smiling at what was happening in front of her. After what seemed like an eternity, holding each other so tight that our ribs were about to break, we kissed and finally sat ourselves on the sofa. We started talking and I learned that Nanny had a pretty rough time after I left. Her mother had passed away, but she did not tell me because she did not want me to think that she was lying and just wanted some financial support. She did not want me to work all week just to support her. I told her about my job and explained that I have enough money for both of us for 1 year. So after an hour or so chatting and catching up, she said it's bedtime. Entering her bedroom, before the door was even closed, my shirt was ripped off from me. She was like a hungry tiger. That night, the bedroom fun was intense and passionate. She wanted to do everything. Even used some interesting techniques that she had no doubt learned from her previous profession. The next month was spent travelling around Thailand. I advise anyone to do a bit of travelling outside of Pattaya, even if your intention for your holiday is just nighttime fun. It really is a beautiful country, and not everywhere is like Pattaya. There is so many cities, landmarks and activities to do. I loved it. I had to renew my visa a couple of times, so I crossed over into Cambodia. Doing a border run takes about 30 minutes, stamp out of Thailand, stamp into Cambodia and walk straight back to stamp back into Thailand. Easy. We later went to Bangkok to see Nanny's sister, Molly. She was really in a bad place, addicted to ice. She was skinny and just not attractive at all. It's hard to think that this girl is or was a bar girl. Seems she was still mourning over the passing of her mother and using ice to try and escape the pain. This really made Nanny upset seeing her sister like this, so we decided that we would take her back to Pattaya to stay in Nanny's apartment with the hopes she cleans up her act. She really just lounged around the apartment doing nothing apart from crying and fidgeting all the time. She wanted me to loan her some money, which I had no doubt in my mind would go towards her habit, so I refused and instead insisted that she goes to the hospital to get checked out and seek help. But she was very reluctant to go to the hospital and to get help, so me and Nanny had to trick her. She was finally checked out top to bottom. She had an intestinal infection and an STD. She was admitted for her treatment. Because there was a young girl, Apple, in the apartment, Apple's mum and Nanny would take it in turns taking care of Molly, while I would help look after Apple. She really loved being around me, to be honest, and I loved spending time with her. Even picking her up from school, she wanted to show me off to all of her friends as a special Farang. It seems even kids need to show face in Thailand. I admit, I spoiled Apple rotten. She was a gem of a girl, and her skills in English improved rapidly in just over a 2-week period with me. I was even helping her with homework, and her teachers ended up meeting me, asking me to carry on organising fun learning tactics for Apple. I'm not going to lie, I felt like I was taking over the father role for Apple. Eventually, Molly had surgeries in the hospital and was discharged 2 weeks later. Looking after Molly put just a little strain on our relationship because we could not spend as much time as we wanted together. But we were still strong and very much in love. The night that Molly was discharged from hospital, I took Nanny out for dinner and proposed. She actually accepted the proposal before I had even finished my rehearsed speech. And they don't take their time in Thailand. Within a week of me proposing, we were getting married in a small body ceremony with Apple, Apple's mum, Molly and 3 of Apple's teachers in attendance. Apple's father also came over and was ready to bring his family to Holland. He was a small, pale, old, pudgy, bald man, and a college professor of mathematics. If I'm honest, you would never have thought that him and Apple's mum would be a good fit together, but they seem to make it work. I spent some time with him and Apple. She was showing off her new stuff she had learned with me, and he was a bit amazed at how clever she had become. However, if there is anyone that can challenge her even more, it's him. They were inseparable, and so they should be. Apple and her family left the following week. I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little sad that Apple was leaving. I did grow a tight bond with her. After Apple and her mum left, Molly moved in permanently with me and Nanny, and life carried on as normal. Mine and Nanny's relationship was going great, and Molly's health was improving and starting to look normal again. 2 months later, Nanny's wife visa came for my country, and we left shortly after. Before leaving, we set Molly up with an apartment and found a good roommate for her. She actually got a job working with the government as some sort of clerk. I did actually pay for Molly's cut of the rent for 1 year to ensure she was able to get back on her feet and not have to worry. So to wrap this up, I went to Pattaya and married an ex-bar girl but current part-time freelancer. We are still happily married to this day. We have welcomed 2 beautiful special children into our lives, and everything is going great, full of love and happiness. As I said at the start of the story, most relationships with bar girls do not end up like this. Thankfully, mine turned out different. That being said, times are different now, especially with social media and mobile phones. It's a lot easier for the girls to keep in contact with multiple guys at the same time. I did all the wrong things with a bar girl that people warn you about. My heart led my brain, and I was thinking with my little head rather than my big head. But sometimes life has a way of making the unexpected actually work. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't been all sunshines and rainbows. We have been on the edge of divorce twice, and like everyone else, we have our disagreements, but we have always managed to pull through and be stronger than ever. I believe a lot of energy has to go into making a marriage work, despite who you are or who you marry, and communication is so important, bar girl or not. I would say that having a successful relationship with a bar girl and a successful marriage is a complete roll of the dice. It is a big gamble. Do your homework, and if you have a feeling it can work, then take the chance. You might just get lucky. Keep in mind, if you want to bring a bar girl over to your country, then having a good employment record is great. So try to make your girl have some type of job other than the bar work where she is actually employed. Nanny told me in the early days that she wanted to leave her profession because of bad experiences. She's always shared a desire of having her own family because hers had either died off or, like her sister, just wasn't quite with it for some time. So try and find a bar girl that wants to or has left her profession, despite the amount of money she'd be losing if she actually left. Find out everything there is to know about the girl before you commit. It's not creepy to ask questions if you actually feel you would like a future with her. I'm giving this advice even though I did everything wrong. I was stupid with my behaviour and I fell in love instantly. But by some miracle, everything worked out fine. When I wake up in the morning next to Nanny, she is still as beautiful as the first day I met her on Pattaya Beach, and I feel like the luckiest man alive every day. As for Molly, she did get her act together somewhat. She got married and divorced twice, and unfortunately, she did not age gracefully. She is pretty overweight and full of wrinkles. The addiction she had to ice certainly didn't help her in the beauty department. Eventually, she went back to her old profession and made quite a bit of money in the different tastes escort service. She is the owner and mama-san that caters to all types of customers with certain desires from the normal. You name it, she has it, can get it, or will do it. But there you have it, guys. Just thought I'd share my success story. Most of the times it don't work with a bar girl, but for me, taking the chance was the best decision of my life. So, thanks guys, and take a chance.